Welcome back to Smart Money History. I'm Arthur, and today we're talking about a financial threshold that almost nobody discusses, yet it is the exact point where everything in your financial life begins to transform. The difference between staying broke forever and building real, lasting wealth isn't a six-figure salary, it isn't crypto, it isn't buying property, and it isn't some secret investment strategy reserved for insiders. According to billionaire investor Ray Dalio, the gap between financial fragility and financial momentum comes down to crossing one specific number. That number is $15,000, not a million, not 100,000, just 15,000. And before you dismiss that as too small to matter or too big to reach, you need to understand why this number changes everything, psychologically, mathematically, and strategically. The financial industry often makes wealth appear complicated because complexity sells. Complex products, complex strategies, complex forecasts. But Dalio argues that wealth is not mysterious. It's arithmetic, it's behavior, it's systems, and most importantly, it's about surviving the early stage long enough for compounding to begin working in your favor. Imagine saving $400 a month. You skip vacations, you drive the old car, you pack your lunches, you turn down nights out. After an entire year of sacrifice, discipline, and delayed gratification, you look at your account and you see about $5,000, and it feels small, it feels slow, it feels like you've worked incredibly hard for something that barely moved the needle. This is the point where most people quit, because they're thinking linearly. They tell themselves, if $5,000 took a year, $100,000 will take 20 years. I'll be too old to enjoy it. But wealth does not grow linearly, it grows exponentially, and the early part of an exponential curve looks almost completely flat. It feels like nothing is happening, it feels unrewarding, it feels invisible. That flat stage is the most dangerous stage in the entire wealth-building journey, because that is where 90% of people give up. When you finally push through and cross $15,000, something shifts, not just mathematically, psychologically. You are no longer one unexpected car repair away from panic. You are no longer one medical bill away from debt. You are no longer living in constant low-level anxiety about money. You begin to sleep differently, you think differently, you make decisions differently, the identity changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to escape being broke, and you begin seeing yourself as someone who builds capital. That shift in identity is powerful, because once you see yourself as a capital builder, your behaviors align with that belief. You protect money differently, you evaluate purchases differently, you think long-term instead of short-term. Now let's talk about the math, because this is where the crossover becomes visible. A 10% return on $1,000 is $100. That feels insignificant. It doesn't excite you, it doesn't feel like progress, but a 10% return on $15,000 is $1,500. Without lifting a finger. Suddenly your money is generating a third of what you may have saved through sacrifice over the course of a year. At $30,000, that same return becomes $3,000 annually. At $75,000, it becomes $7,500. At $150,000, your money generates $15,000 a year. The exact threshold that once changed your life. This is what Dalio describes as the crossover point. The phase where your money begins carrying a meaningful portion of the load. In the beginning, you carry everything. Later, your money carries more and more. But you must survive long enough to reach that shift. So why do so many people fail before they ever cross that line? Dalio points to three psychological traps that quietly keep people financially stuck. The first is impatience. Humans are wired for immediate gratification. We are constantly bombarded with signals telling us to upgrade now, travel now, spend now, enjoy now. Social media magnifies this pressure. You see curated lives, luxury purchases, vacations, cars, homes, and you feel behind. But impatience is the enemy of compounding. People spend their seed corn to feel better today, guaranteeing poverty tomorrow. Income does not create wealth. Behavior does. There are people earning $40,000 a year who quietly accumulate capital and eventually build real security. And there are people earning $200,000 a year who live paycheck to paycheck because their lifestyle expands with their income. Discipline beats salary every time. The second trap is envy. Envy destroys more financial plans than market crashes ever will. You may be making steady progress toward $15,000. You may be doing everything right. But then you look sideways. A friend buys a new car. A coworker buys a home. And posts vacation photos. Suddenly your own progress feels inadequate. You start questioning your timeline. You begin taking unnecessary risks to catch up. You leverage investments. You borrow. You stretch. But what you don't see is the debt behind the purchase, the stress behind the lifestyle, the fragility behind the image. Comparison is financially lethal. When you focus on someone else's timeline, you abandon your own. And wealth building requires singular focus. The third trap is self-pity. Self-pity is dangerous because it creates passivity. It convinces you that your starting point defines your ending point. Dalio suggests a powerful mental model called inversion. Instead of asking, "How do I get rich?" ask, "What guarantees I stay poor?" Spending more than you earn guarantees it. Saving nothing guarantees it. Taking on high-interest debt guarantees it. Acting on envy guarantees it. When you consistently avoid behaviors that destroy wealth, you gain a long-term advantage without needing brilliance. Avoiding stupidity consistently beats trying to be a genius. Now, you might think Dalio speaks from a position of untouchable success, but in 1982, he publicly predicted a severe economic depression that never happened. The economy boomed, his clients left, his reputation collapsed, he lost everything. He had to borrow $4,000 from his father just to cover basic expenses. Imagine going from managing large sums of money to asking your parents for help with bills. But that collapse forced him to build something stronger than confidence, a system. He wrote down every mistake. He studied cycles deeply. He automated decisions. He created principles to remove ego from investing. And from that disciplined structure, he rebuilt. Not because he was motivated, but because he was systematic. Wealth is not built on bursts of motivation. It is built on boring, repeatable systems executed over time. And this matters more today than ever. Dalio believes we are nearing the end of a 75-year long-term debt cycle. Historically, when massive debt cycles conclude, they resolve through defaults, restructuring, or inflation. In each historical instance, over the past several hundred years, those who held capital survived and often thrived. Those without capital suffered. $15,000 is not about luxury. It is about optionality. It is about being able to act when others cannot. When markets fall and panic spreads, those with cash reserves become buyers. Those without reserves become sellers out of necessity. Capital provides flexibility, and flexibility creates opportunity. Dalio shares an example from his early years. He and a friend each invested $15,000 into a small apartment building. They renovated it, improved the rents, and 3 years later turned that $15,000 into $47,000. But the key detail is this: the opportunity required $15,000 to enter. If he had only $5,000, he would have watched from the sidelines. Capital creates access. Access creates growth, and growth compounds. But the ultimate goal of wealth is not status. It is not flashy possessions. It is not impressing neighbors. The true goal is freedom. Crossing $15,000 gives you the power to say no. No to bad opportunities. No to toxic jobs. No to desperation. You are no longer forced into every decision by immediate need. But here is where many people sabotage themselves. The moment they taste progress, they inflate their lifestyle. They reward themselves prematurely. They complicate their finances. They introduce leverage. Instead, the strategy must remain simple. Spend less than you earn, automate your savings, continue learning, increase your earning power, avoid high-interest debt, and allow time to do its work. Time is the single most powerful ingredient in compounding. Every year you delay starting is a year of exponential growth you will never recover. The first $15,000 will be the hardest money you ever accumulate. It will test your patience, your discipline, your identity. But once you cross it, the curve begins to turn upward. Your money becomes visible, your confidence grows, your decisions improve, and the compounding effect accelerates. So the question is simple. Are you building toward $15,000 or are you spending your way away from it? Because the difference between financial fragility and financial momentum is not as wide as people think. It is not a $1 million leap. It is a disciplined climb to a modest but powerful threshold. Build the system, automate the behavior, increase your value, protect your capital, stay patient, avoid envy, avoid leverage, and let time multiply your effort. Start today, because the earlier you begin, the sooner your money will begin working for you instead of against you, and that is when everything changes.